Welcome, fearless adventurers, to another heart-pounding Sunday special. I'm Ankur Pundit, and tonight, we're venturing into the darkest corners of the unknown. Are you prepared for a night of terror, mystery, and spine-tingling encounters? Today, we're diving into 3 heart-stopping tales of haunted places and the chilling experiences of those who dared to stay inside. Get ready for a thrilling journey that will keep you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. Story 1. Night in a Haunted PG, the Scariest Experience. This story is based on the genuine experiences of everyday people who have faced substantial challenges and are sharing their tales to help others avoid similar pitfalls. Learning from these real-life incidents can be extremely valuable, as they reveal the mistakes that led to significant losses and provide insights on how to avoid them. Today's real incident was shared by Nikhil, who comes from a middle-class family in Lucknow. His father works a private job, but Nikhil has big dreams of cracking government exams and securing a stable future. With this goal in mind, Nikhil, along with his friend Dev, moved to Mukherjee Nagar in Delhi, a well-known hub for competitive exam preparation. Let me tell you a bit about Dev. He is Nikhil's schoolmate from Lucknow, and like Nikhil, his father also works a private job. In 2017, both Nikhil and Dev decided to head to Mukherjee Nagar to prepare for their exams. Upon arriving, they started knocking on doors, searching for a PG or flat they could afford. Coming from middle-class families with limited budgets, they spent the entire day looking for a place to stay. Their search led them to meet 2 other boys, Ajay and Tiru. Now here's a little about these 2. Ajay's father worked for the railways and earned a good salary, while Tiru's father was in the Delhi police and also did quite well financially. Tiru's family lived in police quarters in Delhi, but Tiru preferred to stay in Mukherjee Nagar to avoid household distractions and focus on his studies. Ajay, on the other hand, was a robust young man from Sonipat, having left his family to study in Mukherjee Nagar. The 4 boys quickly became friends and decided to find a flat to share. Nikhil told me that after a long day of searching, they finally came across a house belonging to a Sikh family. The elderly Sikh gentleman was sitting outside his home on a chair when they asked if any flats were available. He mentioned that the first floor of his house was vacant. It wasn't a large room, but it was sufficient for students to live and study comfortably. Curious, the boys asked, "How much is the rent?" Nikhil, who comes from a middle-class family in Lucknow, shared this real incident with us. His father works a private job, and Nikhil has big dreams of cracking government exams. With this goal in mind, Nikhil, along with his friend Dev, moved to Mukherjee Nagar in Delhi, a well-known hub for competitive exam preparation. Dev, like Nikhil, is from Lucknow and also comes from a similar background, with his father working a private job. In 2017, both of them arrived in Mukherjee Nagar and started knocking on doors, searching for a PG or flat they could afford. Being from middle-class families with limited budgets, they faced many challenges. Their search led them to meet 2 other boys, Ajay and Tiru. Ajay's father worked for the railways and Tiru's father was in the Delhi police. Both families were well off compared to Nikhil and Dev. Tiru's family lived in police quarters in Delhi, but Tiru preferred to stay in Mukherjee Nagar to focus on his studies. Ajay was a robust young man from Sonipat, who left his family to study in Mukherjee Nagar. The 4 boys quickly became friends and decided to find a flat to share. After a long day of searching, they finally came across a house belonging to a Sikh family. The elderly Sikh gentleman was sitting outside his home on a chair when they asked if any flats were available. He mentioned that the first floor of his house was vacant. It wasn't a large room, but it was sufficient for students to live and study comfortably. Curious, the boys asked, "How much is the rent?" The Sikh gentleman replied, 20,000 rupees. Each of you can pay 5,000. For Tiru and Ajay, this was manageable, but Nikhil and Dev were deeply concerned as every penny mattered to their families. Despite their concerns, the boys decided to take the room, given the scarcity of affordable options. As they were moving in, Nickel and Dev noticed a door leading to a basement with a lock wrapped in a red cloth. They exchanged puzzled looks but didn't think much of it, considering the affordability of the place. The Sikh gentlemen took their rent and security deposit, and the boys settled into their new home, relieved to have finally found a place. They celebrated their new accommodation, shared stories about their families, and went to sleep, ready to start fresh the next day. The following morning, they got ready and went out to find a good coaching center. They found one that was both good and affordable, and all four enrolled. Their days were filled with studying, and everything seemed to be going well. They kept their families updated, using their keypad phones to share their progress. The pressure was particularly high on Nickel and Dev, as their families had high expectations and limited means. A few months passed, and soon it was Diwali. The boys discussed whether to go home or not. Nickel and Dev, hailing from Lucknow, found the 12-hour journey impractical. Tiru, whose family lived in Delhi, decided to go home, as his parents insisted. Ajay chose to stay with Nickel and Dev. Just before Diwali, Tiru's father came to take him home. Now it was just Ajay, Nickel, and Dev. 2 days before Diwali, the Sikh gentleman called Nickel and asked if he could help clean the basement and change a light bulb, as it hadn't been opened for years, and it would be good to have it lit during the festival. Nickel agreed, seeing no harm in helping out. One evening, the boys decided to help the elderly Sikh gentleman clean the basement, especially since he seemed quite keen on it. Nickel, Dev, and Ajay approached him and said, "Uncle, give us the key and we'll take care of the cleaning and whatever else needs to be done." The elderly man stepped outside and said, "I don't know where the key is. Why don't you just break the lock?" Nickel, feeling a bit uneasy, replied, "Uncle, it's your lock. We can't break it. You should do it." The elderly man, playing the helpless card, responded, "I'm old, my son. I can't do much. You boys can handle it." Dev and Nickel exchanged uneasy glances, sensing something off about the situation. The lock was wrapped in a red cloth, and the old man was unusually insistent. Ajay, trying to be practical, stepped forward and said, "Come on, let's just help him out." Ajay grabbed a brick from outside and started hitting the lock. After a few blows, the lock broke open. Ajay was the first to step inside, followed by Nickel and Dev. As they descended into the basement, they noticed some strange markings on the walls. It looked like a structure, perhaps some deity, had been drawn on the walls. Ignoring the oddity, they proceeded with the task. The elderly man handed Ajay a light bulb and a ladder, instructing him to change the old, dusty bulb. Using their keypad phones for light, Ajay climbed the ladder and changed the bulb. As the light flickered on, they were all startled by what they saw on the opposite wall. It was a deity made out of cow dung, with black crystal-like eyes that seemed to sparkle in the dim light. Ajay, unnerved, started climbing down the ladder when he accidentally kicked a brass pot placed in front of the deity. The pot contained ashes, which spilled over Ajay's feet. The elderly man became furious, scolding them. "Couldn't you even do one simple task properly?" Feeling uncomfortable and guilty, the boys hurried back upstairs. 3 days before Diwali, the boys received phone calls from their families, urging them to come home for the festival. Despite their earlier reluctance, they decided to leave, understanding their families' concerns. Ajay headed to Sonipat, while Nickel and Dev made their way back to Lucknow. After celebrating Diwali, Nickel and Dev returned to Delhi a week later. Upon their return, they found Tiru at home, but Ajay was nowhere to be seen. As they settled in for the evening, Nickel and Dev asked Tiru, "Have you spoken to Ajay? Why didn't he come back?" Tiru explained, "Ajay isn't feeling well. He's really sick." Tiru, whose family lived just a couple of kilometers away from Ajay's in Sonipat, shared that he had visited Ajay's house. His condition got worse after Diwali, Tiru said, his voice filled with concern. Tiru began, "Guys, when I went to visit Ajay during Diwali, his family wouldn't let me see him. They said he was acting very strangely." Nikhil and Dev, puzzled, asked, "What do you mean by strangely? What was he doing?" Tiru continued, "I don't know what happened to him, but ever since the night before Diwali, he started behaving really weirdly. On Diwali night, he disappeared from his house and went to some dark corner of the village, drawing strange symbols like triangles and circles." Nikhil and Dev felt a chill run down their spines. "This is really odd. Maybe we should tell Tiru about the basement incident," Nikhil whispered to Dev. They stepped aside to discuss. Tiru, noticing their secretive conversation, asked, "What are you guys hiding from me?" Nikhil sighed and said, "Look, we think there's something wrong with the basement here. When you left with your dad, the elderly Sikh man called us and asked us to clean the basement. We noticed some really weird things down there." Tiru's eyes widened. "You guys are fools. Do you know how much Ajay has suffered? He's been possessed badly. You should have told me earlier." Defensively, Nikhil said, "Well, you didn't tell us about Ajay's condition either. We just found out now." Determined to get to the bottom of things, Tiru called his dad, who was in the police. Tiru's dad, concerned, called Ajay's family. They were neighbors, after all. The news spread quickly in their village, and soon enough, Ajay's family, along with a priest, arrived in Mukherjee Nagar. Ajay's family confronted the elderly Sikh man, demanding answers. "What did you make our boy do? What's in that basement?" They insisted he show them the basement. Reluctantly, under pressure, the man unlocked the basement. The priest descended first, staying down there for about 15 to 20 minutes. When he emerged, he looked grim. "There's a spirit bound down there," he declared. "It's a restless, malevolent entity." Tiru's dad, backed by his authority, and Ajay's dad, along with the other boys, pressured the Sikh man further. Finally, he confessed, "Years ago, we had a son who acted strangely. My wife, who dabbled in dark arts, tried to save him. But the boy died, and she bound his spirit in the basement. She would visit him, but as the spirit grew, it became more malevolent." The group was horrified. "What about Ajay now?" they demanded. The priest who had come with Ajay's family said, "We need to act quickly. Ajay doesn't have much time." Without wasting any time, Tiru, his father, Ajay's family, and the priest rushed to Sonipat. Nikhil and Dev stayed back but remained deeply concerned. Back in Sonipat, Ajay's condition was dire. The priest performed several rituals and gave Ajay a protective amulet. Slowly, Ajay started to recover, but the change in him was noticeable. He had lost the glow on his face, dark circles ringed his eyes, and he had become thin and frail. The ordeal had taken a significant toll on him. Months later, when Ajay was somewhat back to normal, the friends decided to move out of the haunted place and found a new PG on the second floor. Life slowly returned to normal. Their studies picked up pace and everything seemed to be on track. One day, feeling the need to unwind, the friends decided to go for a swim. It was winter, and the idea of a heated indoor pool sounded perfect. They packed their bags, full of hope and excitement, ready for a break from their strenuous routines. Little did they know, another adventure awaited them. Despite their apprehensions, they decided that a trip to the swimming pool would be a great way to relax. Little did they know, this decision would have dire consequences for Ajay. At the pool, Ajay, wearing his protective amulet, jumped into the water. As he submerged, the amulet slipped off his neck. Panicking, Ajay quickly retrieved it and put it back on, but didn't mention this incident to his friends. However, as they sat on the poolside, Ajay seemed noticeably disturbed, sitting quietly in a corner. Tiru, concerned, asked, "Ajay, what's wrong? You look really worried." Ajay hesitated but then said, "When I dived into the pool, my amulet came off for a moment. I managed to put it back on, but it really scared me because I was warned never to remove it. Trying to calm him, Tiru replied, "Don't worry, it was only off for a few seconds. We'll call your family in the morning and let them know. They'll tell us if there's anything to be concerned about." That night, they all went to bed, but AJ's unease lingered. Around 2:30 a.m., there was a knock on the door. Nikhil answered it to find policemen standing there. They asked him to follow them to the terrace via the back gate. Confused and anxious, Nikhil followed them, thinking, "Where's Ajay?" When they reached the terrace, Ajay was gone. The place was in an uproar. AJ's family arrived soon after, along with the priest, and the horrifying truth came to light. Ajay had been possessed again and was taken by the malevolent spirit. Everyone was devastated. The entire ordeal led them to leave Mukherjee Nagar. Nikhil, deeply affected, said, "I don't know whose fault it was, but we lost a friend who was like a brother to us. We used to study hard, aiming for government jobs. But after this incident, we couldn't even think about Mukherjee Nagar without shuddering." Nikhil's voice trembled as he recounted, "We used to be so close, but this event drove us apart. I haven't spoken to Tiru or Dev much since. This incident changed everything for us." He concluded with a somber warning: if you're watching this, always check the background of any place you plan to stay, whether it's a hotel, a flat, or a PG. You never know what hidden dangers might be lurking. Be cautious, and may you never face what we did. Story 2. Ultra Cheap Haunted House. A deal or a deadly trap? This real incident is narrated by Amrit, who hails from Uttar Pradesh and had an unforgettable experience with his 5 friends in 2023. They were all staying together in a flat, sharing the rent. Amrit explained that he was from up and got selected for Chandigarh University. When he arrived in Chandigarh, he started looking for an apartment. It's common in colleges to find friends who prefer staying together. So they decided to look for a 3 BHK together, share the rent, and live there while studying at Chandigarh University. After some research, they found a society near Kerr with a vacant 3 BHK. They spoke to the authorities and found out that the rent for the property was around 25,000 Indian rupees to 35,000 Indian rupees. Excited about the prospect, they decided to go ahead with the plan. However, just before they could finalize the deal, they received a call informing them that the property had been booked by someone else. Feeling disappointed, they realized that their instant decision-making hadn't worked out. With 4 to 5 guys in the group, it was possible that one of them was busy at the time of the decision. The sudden turn of events left them unable to connect over the phone to finalize the deal, and the flat was allotted to someone else. Amrit, who was near Kerr at the time, decided to stay in a hotel that night, planning to resume his search the next day. Meanwhile, his friends had also started their search in the area. However, since they all belonged to different states and none of them were familiar with Chandigarh, they were at a loss. As they were about to leave the hotel the next morning to restart their search, they received a call. It was Auntie, who informed them that the booking that had been made the day before was cancelled, and they could now take the room if they wanted. Overjoyed, they quickly informed the others and declared that their work had become easy. Annie said, "Now all of us can stay there." In reality, there were 6 guys living there instead of just 3, but that wasn't a bad thing. The rent for the property was divided among them, and they were also providing security for the property, so there was no harm in it. All 6 guys went there and started living together. They shared that they had rented the place in January and everything was going smoothly until March. As boys are, their stuff was scattered everywhere. They had brought utensils from home, which were mostly plastic plates and bowls. You know how boys place things on the ground as if they might break them at any moment. When they used to eat and place their plates, sometimes the plates cracked, sometimes the bowls cracked, and sometimes the spoons broke. As time passed, their utensils were almost worn out. The market was a bit far from there, and they were debating among themselves about who would go and get new utensils. One of Amrit's friends, Nadeem, said, "Bro, Remember the day Andy gave us the keys? There were many utensils in that cupboard. Amrit said, look, Andy is very different. She is ready to share expenses for anything. So, let's go to the market, but don't mess around. Don't open the cupboard. All friends convinced each other that no one would go so far to buy utensils. It was almost noon, so they decided to open the cupboard. Now, they tried to open the cupboard, but it was locked. Amrit had a suspicion, but Nadim, Ritesh, and the other two friends were thinking about opening the cupboard and using the utensils. They thought Auntie would come when she wanted to see. She must be somewhere else. Auntie, who was the flat owner, lived in Mohali and had a good income. What did these guys do? They forcibly opened the cupboard. After loosening the latch, they opened it. Inside, they saw plates, bowls, and spoons neatly arranged. It seemed like these items had never been used before. They said they hadn't paid attention to this before. They took out those items, and suddenly, the 3 or 4 guys who were standing there saw something on the top shelf of the cupboard. They saw idols of Lord Ganesha and Goddess Lakshmi placed there, with a black pot behind them. It seemed like they hadn't touched those things, but the cupboard didn't close properly. Now, you can understand what arrived from there. They had taken out plates and bowls from there. That night, they experienced things they had never imagined, and I'm saying that this might have been their biggest mistake, for which they would have to pay a heavy price later. They had never thought about this. The next day, these boys who used to go to college, some of them would stay at home, and some would go to their own homes, as is the case with everyone. If there are 5 or 6 friends, it's not like everyone is going to college. Someone is going to meet their girlfriend, someone has work at home, so they have to go back to the state. So there was a boy named Sonny among them who had gone home, and all these friends who were like that, they had gone to Domino's nearby. Domino's was 200 to 300 meters away from there. They had a car. They thought, should we take the car? It's just 1 or 2 kilometers, we can walk. So they went to Domino's and Sonny reached home. Amrit told him, Ankur, brother, I guarantee 100% that we had locked our flat and gone. As soon as Sonny reached there, Sonny got a call and Sonny said, brother, cut these careless calls, you guys come. I am inside. Now see how big this thing was here. As soon as these people reached there, Sonny was standing outside. Sonny started shouting at them, tell me one thing, there's only one key. Did you take it with you? Did you at least close it? Amrit suddenly stepped forward and said, brother, it's not possible. I had locked it myself, and when he tried to open it, the gate didn't open as soon as it was unlocked. I mean, did Sonny see this? Did he see something happen to him? The one who was with Sonny, he was suddenly surprised that he had just come back from there, but this flat was closed. But then another question arises, if that was the case, then who turned on this gas? Now what happened? Did these people understand anything or not? They couldn't understand anything. They looked around the whole house to see if someone had entered to steal. And when Sonny came, he suddenly ran away from behind. The gate remained open. They had calculated all the probabilities from their side, what could have happened, what couldn't have happened. But at the end, they found out that Sonny had come, but the flat was closed. But still, you guys don't believe it, so everyone became curious as to how this could be possible, and they made it possible, but Sonny said one thing, I won't stay here, it feels like something is wrong here. That night, Hrithik stayed in a hotel while the rest stayed in the flat. When everyone returned the next day, everything seemed normal. However, 2 incidents had occurred that puzzled them. First, Hrithik had a feeling that someone was wandering inside, and second, the gas remained on. These incidents were beyond understanding. They discussed these occurrences for some time. A few nights passed, and Amrit's birthday was approaching. Amrit Gupta told them about strange things happening in their flat 3 days before his birthday. While they were sitting normally, the gate suddenly opened and then closed loudly. For reference, he showed them a video. Take a look at the video. If you have watched it, I'll continue. He told them how many times such incidents had happened. Like when they were sitting together, suddenly the kitchen utensils fell, and they could hear noises even when they were in their rooms. Some were inside, some were outside, but they felt like something was moving around. One incident that Amrit mentioned was that they felt as if someone was watching from the bathroom. Whenever they woke up, they felt like someone was peeking, but when they looked, no one was there. The incidents became so repetitive that they would often see someone going out or someone sleeping at night, and they would suddenly panic, thinking that something was wrong with the flat. Then came Amrit's birthday, and as they were all enjoying, they noticed a boy sitting there named Tushar. Tushar had been observing his phone for a long time, looking towards the side where they usually placed their phones on the ground. Everyone was sitting on the floor by the sofa, and no one was sitting on the sofa. It didn't feel right. 2 people were sitting upstairs, 3 or 4 were sitting downstairs, enjoying, eating, and drinking. Suddenly, Tushar noticed that his phone was blinking on and off repeatedly. He picked up the phone and put it near his ear. They heard a voice saying, "Can you hear me? Are you listening?" Suddenly, all the guys were stunned, as if they had been activated. Whose voice was it? A girl's voice can be heard saying, "Listen, everyone. If you're all sitting there, get up from there because I am also sitting there, and I don't like it when someone sits around me. I'm telling you, goosebumps are coming." Tushar and the other guys. Upon hearing this, Tushar immediately hangs up his phone. They were all looking at each other when suddenly Nadim, the guy whose phone was ringing, hears a voice from his phone. After listening to the voice, the guys there freeze in shock. Nadim didn't even flinch. He heard a voice from his phone saying, "Nadim, you need to go home. There are problems at your house. You need to go home now." Nadim stands up, goes out of the flat, and calls home. Everything was normal at his home. Nothing like that had happened. Nadim returns, and the guys are very disturbed. They had been drinking, but one of the guys quickly calls the owner of the flat and explains everything clearly. "Auntie, something like this is happening with us today, and it has happened with us several times before. We have never informed you, but it feels like someone is around us." The owner, who was listening to everything, then tells them, "10 years ago, I used to live there. I used to use 2 rooms, and in 1 room, I had kept a couple. My finances weren't as good back then. Now my finances are fine, but at that time, I used to share my property. I had rented out a room to a couple. One day, I went out for some work, and when I came back, there was a crowd gathered in front of my flat. All I could understand was that there had been a gas explosion there. Perhaps something happened to the 2 people who were there. They are no longer in this world. You can understand. And my son Amrit, after that day, I didn't think it was necessary to stay in that flat. Some people came later, too. A couple of guys came and stayed there for a month or 2, and then they left. I thought everything was fine, but then those people also complained to me. They had shifted to the 25,000 rupees house just to save rent. They had shifted to the 25,000 rupees house just to save rent. You can imagine what happened next. Amrit told me that after that call, he confirmed with Ankur whether the property was rented or not. Amrit told me that the seniors had informed them when they returned home after that incident. A week later, some juniors went there, and one of the juniors had a habit of smoking. So when he went outside to buy cigarettes and came back, as soon as he lit the cigarette, the gas was on at that time. You can understand what happened to him. He was severely injured, but after that, the property was permanently locked, and its owner never returned there. People in Chandigarh who know about Karen Ad know what happened to those people. Here's what happened with that flat. We ourselves have told everyone that no matter what, don't go there by mistake. Now we live in a property worth 35,000, and life is going very well. Our studies are going very well. All our friends are happy. But whenever someone is alone and remembers that flat, living becomes easy. It was an incident that had so much suspense in the end, and when it was revealed, it came out like this. Amrit told me that after this incident, many boys and many friends fell ill. Everyone at home was very upset. All the friends, 3 or 4 people, were very ill. Some had joint pain, some had other issues. But then everything slowly got better, and everyone returned. Now everything is fine with them, and for reference, I have attached an image here. You can see the image. These are all together 6 or 7 guys whose faces are blurred, but for reference, they gave me the photo. After this, these people returned to their homes and completed their education. Now all of them are doing something or the other. But in the end, Amrit himself told me to tell the audience that when you are getting something at a cheap price, please research about it once, because the owner is only concerned about his rent. He doesn't care about anyone's life. The owner, being so loyal, told us everything. So we never said anything. Maybe our mistake was that we went to such a flat to save some rent, where such a big accident could have happened. If we had stayed for another week or 3 weeks, one of us could have been in big trouble. So, it's a big lesson for you that whenever you rent a flat, think about it a bit. Puja wasn't even done here, and there was just a guy named Sunny who respected Lord Krishna a lot. He used to worship a little, so maybe the day he entered that house, he entered it by someone else's wish. But maybe it was God who quietly brought him out of that house, because when all the boys returned, that house was locked. But Sunny said he had gone inside. So think about how Sunny would have entered that house. Story 3: Haunted Hotel. The Scariest Experience. Today's story was shared by Rishan from West Bengal. Before diving into his experience, let's talk about a place you might have heard of, the Bigunkadur railway station in West Bengal. This station was shut down for 41 years due to eerie occurrences linked to a female entity that appeared to train drivers and passengers. At night, people reported hearing a woman's screams, and drivers saw a woman running alongside the train, seeking some kind of revenge. No one knew the exact story behind her tragic fate, but the haunting led to the station's closure. After 41 years, the government reopened the station. Recently, Rishan mentioned that a new incident occurred at Bigunkadur railway station, which he plans to cover in future videos. But today, he shared a traumatic event from 1988 involving his father, Ankit. Ankit was just 25 years old at the time, balancing his first year of college with part-time work to support himself financially. He often received short-term assignments from a tour and travel company, ensuring his work didn't interfere with his studies. In 1988, Ankit was called in for a booking. The company reassured him that it would only be a 1 or 2 day job, so he could focus on his education. Unaware of what lay ahead, Ankit accepted the job. Little did he know, this assignment would lead him to encounter something far beyond the realm of the ordinary, something that would leave an indelible mark on his life. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into Ankit's experience, uncovering the chilling events that unfolded during his assignment. This story serves as a reminder of the unseen forces that sometimes intersect with our lives and the importance of staying cautious and aware. Upon hearing the plan, Ankit thought it would be good to stay close to his family, so he accepted the booking. The location was an hour and a half away from Bigunkadur railway station, at a place called Ayodhya Pahar, also known as Ayodhya Pahar in West Bengal. This place, as Rishan explained, was notorious for black magic and paranormal activities. It was a location haunted by a history of mass suicides, where many troubled souls had jumped from the cliffs, making the hills deeply haunted. Although a popular hill station, people avoided venturing out at night due to its chilling reputation. The tour and travel company gave Ankit specific instructions. He would leave in the morning, reach the destination by evening, and stay 1 night with the family. The family planned to explore the hill station, shop, and then return the next day. Ankit picked up the car keys early in the morning and took the family to Ayodhya Pahar, where they checked into a hotel. Once the family was settled inside, Ankit's task was to bring all the luggage to the first floor. The reception area was eerily quiet, with only one person around, who escorted the family upstairs. Ankit hauled the luggage up and, after settling the family, returned to the ground floor to inquire about his room. He rang a bell at the empty reception desk, and soon a short man in white clothes appeared, directing him to a room behind the reception desk, designated for drivers. Ankit headed to the room and found it locked. The short man unlocked it, and Ankit entered, locking the door behind him. He placed his belongings inside, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling the hotel gave him. As night fell, the once picturesque hill station took on a sinister air. Ankit tried to sleep but was restless, disturbed by faint, eerie sounds outside his room. Shadows seemed to move unnaturally, and a cold chill pervaded the air. Despite the warmth of his blankets, Ankit couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The night was long and filled with strange noises. At one point, Ankit heard what sounded like whispers and footsteps outside his door. Gathering his courage, he opened the door to find the hallway empty, save for the oppressive silence that seemed to press down on him from all sides. Morning couldn't come soon enough. As dawn broke, the family was ready to leave, visibly unsettled by their own strange experiences during the night. Ankit was relieved to get back on the road, away from the haunted hills of Ajodhya Pahar. The journey back was quiet, each person lost in their thoughts, eager to put the night behind them. This experience left an indelible mark on Ankit, teaching him the importance of caution and awareness. It serves as a reminder that sometimes, the places we visit hold secrets far darker than we can imagine, and it's always wise to tread carefully, lest we become part of their story. After resting on the bed for a while, Ankit freshened up and went upstairs to the first floor to join the family. He suggested they head out for a quick tour before it got too dark, knowing that it wasn't safe at night. They all piled into the car, did some shopping, and returned to the hotel around 9:30 to 10 p.m. Back at the hotel, the family went up to their room on the first floor, while Ankit stood by the car, observing the eerie emptiness of the place. The reception area was still deserted. He finally entered the hotel and headed to his room. After a while, he heard some noise coming from the reception but paid no attention to it. Little did Ankit know, the night ahead was going to be unforgettable. He had no idea how haunted this location was. Having had dinner with the family earlier, he freshened up in his room and lay down to sleep. Around 11 p.m., he fell asleep, but his eyes snapped open precisely at 1:05 a.m. He thought he heard water running in the bathroom. Confused, he got up and went to check. The tap was indeed running. He turned it off, puzzled about who could have turned it on. However, the fatigue from his travels soon took over, and he went back to bed, falling asleep almost instantly. At around 2:30 a.m., Ankit woke up again, feeling a presence in his room. He heard the faint tinkling of anklets and gungroos. As he opened his eyes and lowered the blanket, he saw a figure moving outside his window. A woman, dressed in red with gungroos on her ankles, the source of the tinkling sound. Panic set in as Ankit realized he needed to use the bathroom, but he was too scared to move. The figure outside seemed to glide past his window, and then he felt something or someone moving right next to his bed. The sound of the anklets grew louder, closer. Gathering all his courage, Ankit slowly lifted the blanket. Standing there, beside his bed, was a woman in a red sari, her long hair loose and disheveled, holding an axe. She stared blankly at the wall, her presence terrifying and otherworldly. The fear paralyzed Ankit, who lay there silently, not daring to make a sound or move a muscle. The woman continued to stand there, her gungroos tinkling softly with every slight movement. Ankit's mind raced with thoughts of what she might do next, but he couldn't bring himself to do anything but watch in terror. This haunting encounter left a permanent scar on Ankit's memory. It was a chilling reminder of the supernatural forces that sometimes dwell in the most unexpected places, turning a simple night into a nightmare that one can never forget. Ankit lay in his bed, unable to move or speak. He later recounted to his family how he felt completely paralyzed, unable to utter a word. Suddenly, the woman turned towards him. Despite his best efforts, Ankit could only manage to cover his face with the blanket. His misfortune was that he couldn't even remember the Hanuman Chalisa, a prayer he usually recited. All he could say was, Jai Hanuman Gan Gun Sagar, Jai Copies Taihan Lakajagar, Jai Hanuman Ji Jai Balsan. The woman slowly started to move around his room, making Ankit struggle to keep the blanket over his face. He felt too terrified to remove it or leave the room to seek help at the reception. The only thought in his mind was that if anyone could save him, it was Lord Hanuman. He kept chanting praises of Lord Hanuman silently, hoping for his protection. Slowly, the woman began to move all his belongings around the room, her actions becoming more aggressive. Ankit couldn't muster the courage to remove the blanket and confront her or seek help at the reception. All he could do was continue chanting praises to Lord Hanuman in his mind. The woman's laughter filled the room, eerie and unsettling, as if a woman's voice was being converted into a man's and back again. Ankit finally managed to inform his family about the nightmarish experience he was having, repeating the name of Bajrangabali, Lord Hanuman, continuously. Eventually, exhaustion took over and he fell asleep again. When he woke up at 7:30 a.m., he rushed to the reception to share his ordeal. The hotel staff was surprised to hear his story, especially since room 101, where he claimed to be staying, had been locked for the past 4 months. They also mentioned that the hotelier, who was sitting at the reception, had seen a man matching Ankit's description allocate the room to him. However, none of the hotel staff had seen anyone like that. The hotelier couldn't believe it. He went inside with the rest of the staff and saw the room in complete disarray. Ankit had spent the entire night there, but everything seemed untouched. Ankit quickly went to the family and said he had urgent work at home. The family, who were staying upstairs, replied that they had come for a short trip and were leaving. They bid goodbye and left. When Ankit reached home, he told his mother everything. His grandmother, who was deeply religious, reassured him that nothing would harm him as long as they continued their prayers. Ankit's condition deteriorated rapidly, and by evening, he could barely move. His mother called a tantric, who was known for his powerful remedies. The tantric explained that a woman had died tragically in an accident recently, and her spirit was affecting Ankit, making him feel paralyzed. To remedy the situation, he gave Ankit's father a piece of hing, asafoetida, and instructed them not to throw it away for 2 to 4 weeks. Following the tantric's advice, Ankit recovered gradually. He cut off all ties with the tour and travel company and focused on his studies. Currently, Ankit is working a government job and comes from a politically influential family. His father was also very supportive of his education, and the entire family was stable. Reflecting on the incident, Ankit's friend Rishan remarked, "Encore bye. Do you know if I ever ask my father about this incident? His eyes fill with tears. Even today, that woman haunts him in his dreams, or perhaps in his efforts to summon her laughter. Who knows, this incident might haunt us all our lives. Think about it, when you go somewhere to a new place or stay in a hotel, do you seriously conduct background verification? This incident with Ankit in 1988 happened because document verification wasn't as thorough back then. But now, with technology advancing, everything is verified. But do you verify the hotelier? Do you verify the property you're going to? The first thing I feel is that whenever you go to such a location, you attract negative vibes. But if you're very tired, at least establish your temple there. Before sleeping, pray to God so that the negative energy in the room cannot affect you. And Ankit, who couldn't even remember the Hanuman Chalisa, managed to escape. You should remember at least the Hanuman Chalisa. In Hinduism, the biggest thing is that wherever you are, whatever trouble you're in, if you recite the Hanuman Chalisa or remember it, Lord Hanuman himself comes to your aid. Before we wrap up, I kindly ask for your support. Subscribe to Horror Stories and hit the bell icon to be the first to catch our latest updates. Stay connected, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.